Good morning to day 274. Sorry about the wind. Try and get into the shade a little bit. Before I start, thank you for everyone that's commented yesterday. We had quite a few comments, which is great, so please carry that going. We had loads more likes. We had a few more subscribers. So please carry on liking and subscribing if you're new to the video, which you might be. There's plenty of people around the world connecting in at the moment. This is all about us building our dream holiday home stroke full-time home in Barbados, and the trials and tribulations of building abroad in a completely different environment, learning new processes, and getting to know new skills. So anyway, any questions, any comments? We had quite a few in there today. We had somebody ask about the plastering, which I'm going to show you a little bit more in detail about, because here people don't tend to plasterboard and plaster. So I'll show you a little bit more about that, so that gives you a good understanding why we've done it and what's behind it. Today, obviously, we've got the gutter issue, so a few of you have commented on the gutter. Again, the few of you that don't know, the reason why the gutter's going in now rather than at the beginning is because when the driveway was laid, my team didn't put the right levels on the driveway. So a driveway needs to run, so water lands, water runs away from the house. Well, unfortunately, something went wrong and we've laid our driveway flat. And with the concrete having a slight bulge in the middle, we've now got water running backwards to the garage. So we're now trying to find a way of taking that water away from the house when it lands and getting it away, which also means cutting into the brand new concrete we've had laid, and trying to find a solution. Bear in mind, depth is our biggest problem. Depth meaning we've got BRC, which is a gridded steel that's in the floor. We've got conduits for the electric gates. We've got conduits for the irrigation. It's all going through the driveway, so we can't cut straight through like we'd like to. We're trying to find a way of cutting through without cutting through things, and also trying to find a way of getting the water away. So at the moment, we're finding a solution to a problem which is not the ideal solution, but it's what it is. It is what it is, as I always say. So let me quickly show you around. So yesterday we started off by digging here. So obviously it's going to have to start behind here because the water's going to come down to here. It's going to hit this wall, and this is where the first point is going to be. So we're thinking about putting a 3-inch pipe in the floor, which is like that over there. And we're thinking about putting a T-junction into it, but having the T-junction facing upwards, and then doing like a blinding around the actual pipe itself, cut at an angle so the water finds its way in, and then we've got to run it all the way down there. So we've got to be around about 3/4 of an inch underground here to cover it with concrete, and then it's got to run, as you can see here, there's some pencil lines on here, 1.5 inches. So we've got to try and run it all the way down. So as you can see, we started cangoing it out, and as you can see now, the pipe there is around about 2 inches, so it needs to be about 3 there. So we've still got to go down further. At the moment we're at concrete here, which is absolutely fine, but as you can see we've had to cut through the actual BRC. So this is the BRC is actually holding this and this together. So it really is a mess. And then you've got the beams. So this beam goes from this wall to this wall and it holds the whole thing together, so we can't cut through it. So we now have an issue with depth there. We did actually buy a box gutter system, which I think I showed you on some of the previous videos, but it's 5 inches on its own, and it has to go down, as you can see, at least 3 inches from here down to there. So by the time you get down to there, we need to be 8 inches deep, and we need to be at least 6 inches here. So that isn't going to work. So the box gutter is fixed, and it gets a nice little grid on top, and you can drive over it, but it's an 8-inch issue, which we just don't have the depth. So we can't use that. I have thought about cutting it in half. One of the guys, David from UK, said that he thought about cutting it in half and did if there's a solution you guys have got of how I can cut it in half and do what I've got to do with it, then please let me know. But at the moment, it's got a lot of strength. It's got blades all the way around it. It's got fins. It's got loads of things to try and make it sturdy. But as a result of that, it also means that it's quite deep. Whereas if we find a bit of schedule piping, and again, the difference between normal piping and schedule 40 piping is the thickness. So we can't afford to have a standard piping going in here. It's going to have to be the 3-inch, but schedule 40, which is as far as I'm aware, it's just a very thick surface. If I hazard a guess, I'd say it's probably 4 or 5 mil thick. I don't know why they call it schedule 40. I have to look into that. Anyone know? Let me know in the comments. I'm assuming it's because it's 4 mil. But again, it says it's schedule 40. So this one here is not a schedule pipe. So So as you can see here, it might have some writing on it somewhere. There we go, all made in Tobago for some reason. So this is a 3-inch, oh, it is a schedule 41. No, that's a schedule 41. So it's quite flimsy. Whereas the schedule 40 stuff is quite thick. So I'm not too sure, it does feel a bit sturdy, but it doesn't look thick enough. So anyway, we need to make sure the thicker pipe is used. Otherwise, with concrete and traffic, it will just crush. So that's one thing we've got to do. So today really is about trying to, so a lot of people call, in Barbados, they do a thing called a wipeout, where they will literally dig this out and then concrete a little semicircle in there with a run on it, which is great. But obviously, number one, this is where we're going to be driving in the cars. So we're going to drive up the driveway, we're going to drive into the garage, and what I don't want to be doing is going over a 3-4 inch drop, because over time it's just going to crumble anyway, it's going to break off, and it's, you know, it's nicer to be able to drive over something flush. So in an ideal world, if we can get this 3-inch pipe in the floor and get that laid, then one, it's a nice bore of water to take away. It should be 4-inch, but 3 is probably the biggest we're going to be able to get in there. And we also should have the actual depth to be able to cover the whole thing as well, so that we're literally going to have a hole here in the middle. I would say we'll put a hole at this end, just where the wall's going to come over here. So we're probably going to have a 6-foot wall here. At the end here, just where the concrete join is here, we'll put a T-junction here, we'll put a T-junction here, and we'll put a T-junction just here. So they will be 3-inch bores aiming outwards. That's what I think we'll end up doing there. And at the same time, what we want to try and do, if we can, is to do a wipeout from here down to here. So if we can actually do like a 2 to 4 inch wipeout all the way down here, that may work as well. So this will work independently to this. This will take the water away that's coming down, and this will take the water that's coming down this way, and anything coming that way, it will take that down as well. So we might be able to do a wipeout there, which is separate to this here. So yeah, the comment was, why are you doing this now? Why didn't you do it before? It wasn't meant to be done at all. This was all meant to be running off by 4 inches so the water runs out. But unfortunately, as you can see, it's the spirit level says it's level, but the naked eye sort of says that it's running slightly backwards. So yeah, we ballsed up, and as a result of that, we're now unfortunately paying the consequence. So as you can see, we carried on with this wall yesterday, so we just didn't stop the build. And now what we've got to do is patch these blocks in now. We are running low on blocks. I'm waiting to find out we can get a delivery, because now that we've landed up taking this wall down, we now need another 50 to 80 blocks just to finish this piece off. We're also talking to the engineer about trying to make this beam that's going across here smaller, because for some reason they've made it 4 foot, which I think you can get away with doing 3 foot, especially bear in mind this opening now is going to be around about 19 and a half feet. We've also decreased the back one. That was going to be right over to here, so we've decreased this back one now probably to around about 12 feet. I'd have to measure it, but it's definitely not what it used to be. So formwork is going to carry on today. Blocks, if we can get them, that's going to carry on today. And I said I'd show you inside the cottage. So people that are asking questions about plasterboard, we call it plasterboard. Here they call it sheetrock. It's basically a plaster board with a cover over the top and front, and in England we use it a lot. So a lot of the actual internal walls in England are studded, so they're 2x4s or 2x3s or sometimes bigger. We make a stud frame. Inside all the electrics are dropped in, it's insulated, and then either side, front and back, is boarded. So that's pretty much what we've done in here. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so morning, Sherman. So in here is a perfect example. So this is a studded wall. So as you can see, the door frame. Behind you can just see the 2x4. We've got a board on the back and a board on the front. They're 2 different colours, the boards. Here we go. So you've got a brown side and you've got like a creamer side. And then on the edges themselves, you have a slight, the board itself goes up probably around about 12 mil. When it gets to the end, it goes in slightly. So it's designed to butt together. So when you butt them together, that's when you put this over it. So it enables like a slight hump. So you fill that gap. But what you do is you tape that gap first. So you tape compound into it, and what that does is if the surfaces move apart, which sometimes they do, it just saves the actual, it saves it cracking. So there's 2 things you can use. There's a tape and there is a mesh. So this is a sticky mesh. and you just stick it on, and then you compound. So you compound first, you stick that on second, and you compound over the top. So all of these will be taped and compounded, and you'd also do the same in these corners, but you normally use a paper, same as this, but it's one piece of paper. You bend it in half, and you compound, you put the paper into the corner, and you compound over the top of it, and you sand it. So in here at the moment, most of this has been two coated. All right, so all these little dots are the screw holes. So we basically put 2x2 framework all across the ceiling, and we've screwed these panels in. And as you can see, the gap, just about to see a gap through there. Let's see where the conduit is. I'll zoom in very quickly. So you can just about see that conduit in there. So it's just about enough room for a conduit and a light fitting. You'd normally use a 2x4 or something around about that sort of 4 inches, but we wanted to go as close as possible. So anyway, so all of this has pretty much been compounded now. It's ready to be sanded. That's going to be the sticky part, and then obviously you can appreciate all of this has been done too. So all the power's in, cut the sockets in. A lot easier to position sockets than it is in the concrete walls. So in here, what we decided to do was to plaster concrete, this stuff here, all over the walls internally in here, and break through holes and set all the power and light sockets into the walls, and then paint it, because it is plasterboard is a ball ache. And then we decided to plasterboard the actual ceilings, and we built the toilet and bathroom out of studded framework. Now in the house, the supporting walls, every wall in the house is a studded, and we used metal conduit. So it's like a U-shaped metal, 3.5 inches wide, and all of that has been erected all the way around the house. I can't see any laying around here to show what it looks like. But yeah, so over there we had all of that done in metal, and then you have cross members to try and strengthen that. Bear in mind we've got 13-foot ceilings or 12.5-foot ceilings, and then you plasterboard the front, you insulate the inside, and you plasterboard the back. Every wall bar the supporting walls over there are partition walls. And as a result of that, even the external walls have been plasterboarded. So again, we used a U-channel, again metal, we fixed that to the wall. So basically all of the walls have got a recess of about 1.5 inches, and then plasterboard over the top. And everything was plasterboarded, and everything was plastered and painted. In here, because of the dust and the noise and the cost, we decided to plaster this with mortar, which you don't get the surface we're looking for. I mean, I don't know if it shows on the camera. You don't get the finish you do with plaster. As you can see, it's like a troll plastic, but it isn't, obviously. This is plaster. So you don't get the finish I was looking for, but it's a lot easier, a lot cheaper, and a lot less dust and aggro. The downside is you've got to cut the sockets in, and you don't get the finish you're looking for. But I did want it on the ceilings and the bathroom. So the bathroom itself, very, very similar, but in and around where the water is, you normally put concrete board. So this is, again, same sort of thing, same size, 8 foot by 4 foot, but it's made out of concrete board, and it doesn't absorb moisture. This absorbs moisture and water. So in the shower area, that's concrete board. Now we don't actually have to put a concrete board on here, but we probably will, mainly just to house all of this. It just saves having to fill this completely. So once we've actually got this fixed, I've asked the actual plumbers to come in and centralise it. There's the centre line, but they've obviously mounted it here. It needs to go over slightly. And then once that's done, that will be plastered in, and then a concrete board will go over. This will be filled, and then we can start the floor process and tiling process. So that's pretty much where we are at this present time. As you can see in here, this is ready to be sanded. We should really have put some compound down in the corner here, joining those two together. Here we will have a pedestal and sink mounted in here. And obviously all this door frame will be finished off and sanded too. So other than that, we still have to get this door off and give that another couple of coats, and we still need to do the slopes in the doorways. So yeah, that's something we need to do today. I've got a list as long as your arm for inside. Yeah, I've got so many things to do. A lot of it's finishing off stuff, but at the same time I've also got some quite big stuff to do as well. So let me get the list and I'll go through it. Sorry about the wind. Okay, so I've got to trim anything on the internal windows ready for silicone. I've got to do that on all of them. That's all the packers. the little packers and the what do you call them here? It's like little spacers. They've all got little hands on. They've all got to be cut off in order to silicon. So that's got to be done. I've got to fit the chandelier finishings. So the chandeliers are in. I've got to spray them, protect them, and I've also got to fit all the actual crystals. I've got to paint the WC, the toilet, because that's now pretty much done. I've fitted the mirror, but the mirror's got to be connected up to the electrics, but that's not me. I've got to silicon some of the external finishes I put on the doors, the big sliding doors. That's got to be done as well. I've also got to silicon the external doors because the window fitter's not coming, and it's just been weeks now. I mean, I think one of you guys commented, why is it so long between the silicon? I mean, number one, it's because obviously he's busy, and number two, it's just because one of those jobs that people don't want to do. So I've got to get that done, otherwise I'm just going to be waiting forever. I've got to varnish the cottage door, got to get the door off, do both sides, get that setting before we put it back on again. Skirting board in the bedroom, the floor is uneven, so I didn't get it finished because I couldn't get the bed away from the wall. So I've got to get the bed away from the wall. I've got to chisel the actual concrete because the concrete floor is pretty much like that. The skirting board is doing a seesaw, so I've got to chip all the concrete away to get the board back on. So it's not a minor job, it's one of those things I'm putting off. The skirting boards and kickboards in the kitchen fit hasn't turned up, although I've seen a bit of the kitchen missing, which I assume he's taken away for a colour match. But I'm just fed up of looking at the units without any skirting boards and kickboards on, so I've got to get those cut and fitted today. And I've also got to take the end panels off of the units and trim them so they come bigger than they need to be. So I need to get the units exactly where they need to be height-wise, refix them on, draw the lines, take them off, and cut them to length. So there's some of the things I've got to do today. And obviously today I've got to try and make sure I oversee the supervision to make sure that the drainage gets done at the right levels. The guys are mixing mortar. The pool steps are being done today as well, so that's another 2 steps being added. But again, you've got to rebar into the pool area, you've got to rebar into the steps to stop the steps coming away from the house and moving away from the house. So that's pretty much now, that's being drilled and done today as far as I'm aware. We've obviously got the blocks in the middle here being done now. We've got the formwork still going up, which I still need to talk to the engineer today. It's probably one of my priorities actually. Because if I don't do that, then we're mounting formwork and we need to put blocks inside. So we're either going to put blocks inside another course or we're not. So either way, I've got to get that sorted out first thing this morning. So I'll probably put a phone call on that. What else? Got to talk to the concrete company, obviously, and order the concrete for the roof, which is going to be probably another week and a half away from getting that done. So that's something I've got to do. Other than that, I think that's it. So again, whilst I'm on, like and subscribe down below. Any comments or any suggestions, please add. Anybody who wants to come and help with my list, please come straight away. I need you as soon as possible. Anyway, so what's the time now? 20 to 9. So I'll check in a bit later on and give you an update. Quick shout out to some people in the UK. Nana, heard you've been a little bit poorly. I hope you're feeling better. Miss you loads. And the people obviously that commented today. So yesterday, sorry. There was a good 13, 14 comments yesterday, all pretty cool. More of it, please. More than happy to respond in the morning when I actually wake up. So thanks again, and I'll check in a bit later on this morning. 20 to 12. Quick update. Okay, the channel's getting bigger. The channel is getting... So, again, we're taking it from 3.5, 3 3/4 inches, probably all the way down to about 6. But we've still got to decide what we're going to do with the beam on the other side.
I've been in law.
Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Okay, and then we've got to take that up as well. These boys up here doing the actual the shuttering. Internal doors are actually going on. Another 2 doors going in as we speak inside. Doors have been silicone. And the inside cottage also been done. So stuff happening. I'll update as we go. Okay, we're 10 to 5. Sorry about the wind as always. Okay, so we have the block wall back up where it should have been in the first place. The electrics need to be cut back into that, and the corner connections are left open so we can get this done. The pipe hole, sorry about the wind, has now been cut in. So depth wise, apart from the beam, which we're going to have to cut through here, we're now at the depth where we actually need to be, all the way through. So I've got to get some schedule or blue piping to go in here. And we're also going to do a wipeout along here as well. So we are actually going to do a 3-inch, from 1 inch down all the way down to about 3 inch. We're going to take a separate bit of water that way. So we're just going to come to the concrete and then smooth that out. And then we're going to bury this in with T-junctions to ensure that the water coming down here goes out through that wall. So the guys have done that today, fair play to them. The boxing is taking more shape on this side, but it's mainly been the other side they've been working on, so I'll take you around. So around here today we've actually come across here now, so we've got the beam on this side with the boxing on the inside, so we're going to be obviously doing the steel all the way along here. The blocks have probably got to be built up a little bit here, and then the steel's going to carry on all the way up to the end of the wall there, and then where this hole is, after he's actually joined that, the steel will shoot that way. We're also going to take up this by 1 block all the way across to make the beam a little bit smaller than it needs to be. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are on here. Jacks are in. Jacks were delivered yesterday, so the guys have been able to crack on with that today. And then for those interested in the plastering, they've been putting this together as well. The plastering is been sanded down and is having another coat, believe it or not. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So as you can see, we're now ready in here, and the sanding is obviously taking place on here. So let's have a coat. So more to do in here, obviously. And then the guys have also been working on the steps down here as well today. So they've started plastering the fronts of all the steps. This one's still wet, so be careful. And we've got these 2 steps now been poured. Box work on, obviously waiting to go off, so they'll be taken off tomorrow. And these all that they've had steels drilled into the wall that way, steels drilled into the steps that way to stop the steps from moving off the wall and forwards. So yeah, and then obviously the fascias are being done as we speak to try and make them look better. So the sides have already been plastered up the side. The fronts have now been done, and then tomorrow will be the tops. So they will look a lot more pleasant. The back side has also been done as well. So yeah, that'll be nicer to look at. We still have to work on next door's wall as well. So we've got the yellow paint in. We just need to, once the painter's finished doing in here, I'll probably get him to paint that wall first, and then he can crack on with coming back into here. But other than that, I think we're pretty much done reporting wise for the day. I'm not too sure there's anything else the guys have done. They've worked on, we've had the doors installed as well, so I'll have a quick look at those in a second. I'll show you what they look like. Apparently work needs to be done. So apparently some of the frames are in. Apparently one of the doors is too big, so it's got to be cut down. But I'll go in and have a quick look, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so there's been 2 doors delivered. 1 frame and 1 door has been put in. Let me spin it around. Okay, so 1 frame is actually in, although it's seen better days. It's obviously been tacked on for now, and there's a couple of screws. But the door itself, I assume, won't shut. So it's got a bit of wood propping it open, I'm not too sure why. As it does shut. It's just a bit far apart, but again, door jamb wise, quite thin down here, quite far up there. Not too sure what's going on there. And a lot of painting need to be done. Anyway, another door is laying here. A lot of the actual door furniture and jambs are actually off. I'm assuming this is the bit that's meant to go in, because this has been removed for some unknown reason. It's meant to go on this plasterboard here, in line with that wall there, because this one here pokes out more. So yeah, I have to look at that and decide which one to put it onto. But there's nothing in here. And the door laying down. I was under the impression these were meant to actually be made out of marine ply, but it's clearly not marine ply because it sounds hollow. And looking at the top of the door, you've got wood at the top and a thin skin. Looks like 5 or 6 mil something. I mean, they're nice doors. Once they're up, they're big and they're nice, but they're certainly not solid. But then again, if they're solid, then they'd be very heavy. So I suppose there is that weight issue to consider. So this is the other door that was installed. As you can see, definitely needs a lick of paint, that's for sure. And it's still not in and centered yet. So it was actually meant to fit the locks today, which he hasn't. Same problem, big gaps down here. No gap up there. This one is all flush, but then the same thing on the hinge front. Two screws missing, one screw missing, one screw missing, a number of screws missing. It's just weird why it's just not finished. Anyway, it was meant to come today and actually install the handles on all the doors and the latches and the locks, but there's no latches or locks fitted. This one was done the other day. This one has no door handle at all, and this one's not even fitted. So yeah, not ideal. And obviously kids running around with screws hanging out the door frame, which is not ideal either. So where I'm concerned, yet another job not finished off. He did say to me this morning that he was going to be coming today, dropping the doors off and disappearing, which I said absolutely not. He assured me he was going to install 2 doors yesterday, and it was meant to be last Tuesday. So I said, you have to come today, you have to install. You're already a day/week late. So he turned up with 2 doors. The 2 frames were delivered yesterday, but he's fitted 1 door half-hearted. Again, you can't turn up with an 8-foot door that's 4 foot wide on your own. To fit a door frame and a door that size, I mean, admittedly they're not massively heavy because they're not solid, but at the same time, it's still a monstrous sized door. You can't fit that on your own. So he needs to be here with other people. He needs to physically get all the doors made, turn up with a team, get them installed, get them finished, get them painted and cleaned, and then ask me for the rest of the money. Same with the kitchen as well. I've noticed a bit of the kitchen worktop, the skirting board is missing. So I don't know why, but the only thing I can assume, never assume, ask me and you, but I can only assume that the kitchen guys turned up in my absence and taken that to colour match the doors, I'm assuming. Fingers crossed. It would be nice to know that that was the case. Failing that, we've got termites that are starting to eat all of the actual the skirting boards. But I'm assuming it's him. There's anything I can think of. There's anything I can think of that he could take that's small enough to do a colour match. So fingers crossed, that means that we potentially could be getting some doors made in the next couple of weeks. The doors that he's actually fitted down here, as you can see, are quite a light grey compared to the grey over there, and they work okay over here, but it certainly can't work over there. So anyway, I feel like I've been moaning. I am moaning. I've got to write the bloody moan. We've got doors that have not been fitted yet again. We've got doors that haven't been finished yet again. And we've got a kitchen that's still not being done. So at the moment, the kitchen fitter, the doors, and what else? There's one other thing. I think there's one other thing. We just need them done. Do you know what I mean? If we can get those done, then we can finish. The kitchen should be finished by now. There's nothing to stop this kitchen being finished, you know? We've literally been at the same situation at the moment as we're in now for 6 weeks. So there's no reason why that couldn't be done. The doors, they were ordered initially second week of January. So there's nothing to stop the doors being made and installed by now. And again, we've got the doors that are here, but they're not finished. So even if it was a case where there is only 3 doors, but they're all in, they're all finished, they're all painted, they're all operational, that'd been absolutely brilliant. But again, another thing, not finished. Completed finisher. Nothing worse than stuff not finished. So anyway, tomorrow the guys are going to be, I need to try and get the pipe work sorted out so they can get the pipe in, get that laid, and then get that reconcreted. The wall in the corner, so the old wall and the two new walls have got to be connected in the middle with some form of beam. But I think what they're going to do, they're actually going to try and block that rather than beaming it. So the option is to physically fill it, put a formwork on the back, the side, and the two sides, and pour concrete down it and make it a solid column with rebar. Or they can block it, but I think they're going to try and block it. But I think it's going to be bloody tough with three corners, one coming this way, one going that way, and one coming this way. So trying to fit a block, 2 or 3 blocks into that three-way thing is, I think, it's going to be bloody difficult. But anyway, I'll talk to them first thing in the morning and find out what their plans are to do. Sherwin is still working over the road in the cottage, sanding down. So, you know, fair play to him. He works till about 6:30 trying to get things sanded down and painted. So obviously I do massively appreciate it. He's been paid for it, obviously, but I do massively appreciate someone working an extra 2 hours on top of an 8-hour day, that's for sure. Other than that, it's another day tomorrow. Again, like I said yesterday, like I said this morning, yesterday's responses and comments were 10 times better. Please help me get more information out there by liking, subscribing if you're new to the channel. And if you're existing in the channel or new to the channel, comment, and I will definitely try and respond to every single one of you. And there were some good comments yesterday and some good suggestions. And also helped clarify a few things to people that weren't too sure what was going on as well. So it was a good correspondence yesterday. So the more you give, the more I can give. So help me share the message, and I'll check in again tomorrow after another day of construction. Thank you.